So, welcome to the No Rest for the Vivid podcast. My name is Claire Hill. I'm a self-belief coach and founder of the Vivid Business Club. And before I carry on and introduce my guest today, and that sounded really posh, introduce my guest, what I have to ask you to check that you are subscribing and following the podcast. I'm noticing as I keep asking for this, because it means so much to me to grow this podcast and bring you amazing guests, just like Megan that I have here today, it is showing those follows, those clicks, they make so much difference. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can also subscribe there. Do a double bubble and just subscribe to everything. It's worth it. It's worth it. So I have the amazing Megan Price here today, positive psychologist and founder of Happy by Me from the Midlands. We've had the conversation already. I can always hear a Midlands accent because of where my husband's from. Welcome, Megan. Welcome to the
Hello,
wonderful
thank you
show.
so much for having me. Yeah, I'll apologise for the Brummie accent.
I love a Brummie
No, thank
accent.
you
I
so
fell
much.
in love with a Brummie accent. More Midlands, please.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Good. I'm so excited to have you. And we just had a little bit of an emergency because I had a call from the school, but we've sorted it. And I did think we'd have to rearrange or something, but we're here. You know, that means that this podcast episode is probably going to be one of the best ever because of that.
Has to be. It has to be.
Has
And
to
this is
be.
why we've got our businesses, right? Like to fit around our life. If we didn't have this, then we'd be back at a 9 till 5 desk. That's why we do what we do. So these
Exactly.
things happen and they are far more important than anything else. So yeah, absolutely, that's why we're here.
Exactly. I'm just so grateful that my husband can deal with it. Because
And
it's
that's why we have
important.
partners.
That's why we have partners. It's so lush to have you. And I'm so interested in what you have got to share because positive psychology is my bag. Before we get into that though, and I want to hear the business love story. Where did it all begin?
So, very a long time ago actually. So I did what most people do, you know, I went to college, went to uni. I was very, very career driven. Like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it well, because that's what you were brought up to believe, right? You know, you're told, you know, what is it that you want to do with your life, Meg? And how are you gonna make money, Meg? And no one really said, well, what does happiness mean to you, Meg? Like that was never a
Yeah.
question. So I did what most people did, and you know, I went to uni and I did a degree in criminology because I had no idea what I actually wanted to do, but that sounded fun, so I'll do that. And then decided that I wanted to switch, and that wasn't going to make me enough money because everything was about money. So I'm going to have to switch into something that could make me some more money. I then went and decided I was going to go into HR. I retrained. I did my first master's degree in HR management whilst working, and I grafted. Like I did that degree in 2 years. It was supposed to take three. I was managing my first department at 22. I joined my first board at 24. I earned my first six figures at 27. And there was just, what's next? What's next? What do I do next? What do I do next? Okay, I've done that. I've done that. That's what's expected of me. Cool. What do I do next? What do I do next? And I just kept going. And I was like, I'm on this career ladder now. People keep telling me, you look like you're doing well, Meg. Like this looks good. Well done. And you know, and I kept hearing that what my life looked like was fantastic. I lived by myself. I bought my first house at 24. I drove around in the fancy car. I had the fancy heels in the office. It looked like it was wonderful.
Yeah.
And I was driving home from work one day and I was like, do I just do this every day? Do I just keep going at the pace that was probably sustainable in my 20s, but probably weren't going to be sustainable forever? And I was driving home from work and I sat at a set of traffic lights, the same set of traffic lights that I sat at every single day. And I was just like, is this it? Like, do I just keep doing this? And then I reached the milestone that I think I'm expected to reach. And then I go, I'll look around for the next one then. And then I'll set myself the next big challenge and I'll work my absolute arse off to go and get that one at 100 miles an hour, and it became very good at succeeding at whatever it was that I wanted to do. But it was hard. And at that set of traffic lights, I'd got the life that I thought I wanted. And I was still looking at a 40, 50 year career ahead of me.
Mm.
And I was going, is this it? Is this what I want to do every single day for the next 50 years of my working career? And I sat at this set of traffic lights and was like, but what else? What else do I do? Because all I ever knew was You go to work and you make money and you make as much as you can. And it doesn't matter whether you're happy with that. That doesn't really come into it, but you make sure that you've done what you're expected to do. And I thought, well, what do I want for my life? And the first thing when you think about that is, do you know what? I just want to be happy. But I had no idea what that meant to me. I had no idea what happiness meant to me because I thought happiness meant success. I thought it meant the nice car and the nice holidays and being independent and being able to do whatever it was that I wanted to do in the 25 days that I was allowed to do it in my holiday.
Mm.
And I had no idea what happiness meant to me. It was never a question that anybody had asked me. It was never something I'd ever explored. It was probably 10 years ago now, probably a little bit more than that. So the self-development community isn't necessarily what it is on social media. You know, these things like this podcast didn't exist in terms of there's another way to live your life. So it was quite a lonely feeling of, oh, like, is this it? Like, is this all I do? And I knew it wasn't, but I had no idea what it was. And that night I went home and wrote happiness in the middle of a piece of paper. And I've still got the piece of paper. And it was November. It was November 2015 because we were coming up to 2016. So we were just coming up to like a new year. Wrote happiness in the middle of a piece of paper and tried to understand who I was if I was the happiest version of myself. What did that mean to me? And at the time, it was things like learning. I loved learning. I loved reading. I loved traveling. I loved adventure. I loved a variety of other things that I weren't doing because I was pursuing this career 95% of my time, or I was pursuing things that looked great on the outside, but wasn't necessarily meaningful or joyful or actually filling me up in any way. But it looked lovely, and that was all I cared about. I didn't know I cared about that, but at the time, that's sort of how I was living my life. And I decided that 2016 was going to be the year of Meg, and I was going to do all of the things that was on my happiness piece of paper, and those were the things that I was going to prioritize. Those were the things that I was going to put energy into, and I was going to completely turn my life the way round that I was living. And it was just a never look back kind of moment. And from that, I discovered positive psychology because I wanted a love of learning. And I was always fascinated about humans and human beings and how we do what we do. That's how I got into human resources. That's how I got into criminology for my first degree and stumbled across positive psychology as a discipline and was just fascinated by the idea that so many of us live our life in neutral, like nothing's really wrong, like there's nothing terrible going on, but it's not exciting, it's not vivid, it's not, we're not, there's no zest there, there's no love there. And it was just a really exciting concept that there's a whole bunch of research out there of how we can live the most fulfilling lives, and no one really knows about it. And it's sat in research labs or it's sat in books that no one reads. And it just, everything that I started to learn, I started to apply to my life. And it completely changed my thought processes around everything. And then I went to retrain. And then it was okay, I need to share this now. And that's where business sort of came from. It came from no, this isn't it. And there's loads of research out there that shows that this isn't it, but no one knows about it. So how do I help? How do I help people go from neutral, being a bit stagnant, to believing that the world of their dreams is possible and we can go and get it?
You're a bloody good podcast guest, I say. Like that was just so articulately said, and you can tell that you're an absolute freaking expert in this, and I
I
love
hope
it.
so.
You just
I hope
totally
so.
sucked me in, and absolutely just enthralled by you. A couple of things that I was thinking when you were talking is when you were saying about earning all of that money, and you got to that point where you were like, yeah, I've done it. I've done that definition of success. That definition of success that sort of that society portrays is how we are successful. I believe is a little bit linked, well, not a little bit, but sort of linked to money, because money brings you status. Is that where we're going wrong? That we believe that having money equals status, and therefore we will be happy because we've got those things?
I think so. I think there's a definite link there. And research wise, there is actually a link between money and happiness, but the latest research is up to about 85 grand. And
Okay.
after that point, it bears little fruit, if you like. I think so. I think our society is built from an economic need. It's built from an economic need of productivity. Everything that the politicians and all the things that we probably won't talk about because it's just we could go into, but that they want more money. They want an economy that works, and that is built on productivity, and we measure that by value, and we measure that by pound value. So when we think about that in what we spend a lot of our time doing, working, how do we contribute to our society in a monetary capacity? We then think about that in terms of productivity. So we then get brought into, and a lot of my clients, and I'm sure you see this too, if we're not busy, therefore we're not worth something. And for me to be able to make my money, I therefore need to work harder. And that's ingrained in us. That's really, really ingrained in us because our society is built from productivity. It's built from an economic standpoint rather than a well-being standpoint. And that sounds like such a fluffy concept. Like, oh, we can't all just be happy in the world because, we need to pay our nurses and we need to contribute. Of course we do. But this is where the relationship between happiness and money always fascinates me, because something that the research has shown time and time again, and I definitely saw it, the time at that traffic light where I made that decision to say, no, I'm going to prioritize joy and love and pleasure and all the things that make me happy and bring me in line with my values. I didn't have that language or know that that's what I was doing at the time, but I can look back at that and say I was prioritizing things that were important to me. From the point that I did that, I then was able to have more psychological resources that allowed me to contribute. So I then had more of the traditional success, but my input wasn't work harder, stay later, grind. My input was what fills me up, what feels good, and how do I create more of that for myself. I then was energized, I was then happier, which then allowed me to do all of those things, and it felt so much easier. So I do think there is an absolute connection between money and success and how we see that to how we live our lives. But I also think that we've got it completely the wrong way around, and you can have both.
So where do we start?
I would always start with that exercise of who are you as the happiest version of you, and what's important to that person, and how aligned are you living your life right now with that version. So for me, in that example, adventure was really important to me. It's not as important to me right now, but it was really important to me in my early 20s. And what was I doing? I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't living any, I would go on a nice holiday once a year maybe, but it wasn't, taking the time of a weekend, for example, or of an evening. Learning was really important to me. I wasn't learning anything. I went, as a result of that exercise, I went to learn how to play piano. I couldn't ride a bike. I went and learned how to ride a bike. I went and did my master's degree in positive psychology. And, it was, who are you? What's important to that person? And what can you bring into your world to allow you to live in line with that now? Because they're there. It's just we're not taking that.
Yeah. So you work with business owners, do you?
Yep, I work with business owners.
Yeah, I was just saying,
yep.
I'm just checking my notes, all right? I was looking at the wrong line to help with leadership style. And I just like when being obviously a business owner myself, and I believe exactly the same as you, that we can basically, you decide to be happy. It's how you prioritize it, and you're responsible for exactly where you are. A lot of people don't like that because, well, it
Ownership.
means yeah. But I think with my work with business owners, I believe that you can work really hard, really enjoy it. Don't have to work too much. I mean, you can, let's be fair, like I could work really hard in 20 minutes and be as productive as I could be in 3 hours, depending on my energy and mindset, in that mindset more than anything, I think. But bringing that joy and that happiness into our businesses, how does that then elevate the impact that we have with our business?
So from a psychological perspective, you get more psychological resources. So let's say you are looking for resilience or creativity or things that you think, okay, this is me as a business owner, and who do I need to be to show up in my business for my business to achieve whatever it is that I want to do? And you will often say things like, I would love to be a bit creative, confident, those kind of things, those psychological resources. And what's happening is if we prioritize joy, pleasure, relationships, the things that top us up, the positive emotion, we naturally get more of those. It's a biological consequence of being able to do those. So it goes to inputs and outputs, that if you're thinking input is, sit for your 15 minutes or your 3 hours, actually, I know it sounds completely counterintuitive, but those 15 minutes could be better spent reading your book or doing whatever it is that brings you that level of positive emotion. The other thing that I would say on that question is, it's your business. So whatever it is that brings you joy. So marketing's a great example with business owners. There are thousands of ways to market your business. But if you believe that the only way is to get on a social media reel that fills you with dread because you don't want to be your face on camera, you can push through that. Of course you can. But why? What is it that do you love copywriting? Then how do you copyright to that? So it's the idea that you can lean into the things that you love. They are naturally the things that you will probably be better at. They'll be the things that fill you up, and build your business with you in the center. And I think I say that to business owners, and I say that, I was a HR director for 10 years. So I consult with big businesses that have got, thousands of employees as well. That's the same principle. Like, put your customer, put the human being at the center of your business, and ask what is it that they need, and build your business outward from that, rather than what you believe you should do, and therefore dictate your time and the things that you should do.
And I think that when I have these conversations, we downsell what we love to do because it's easy for us to do it.
Yeah.
And so therefore the worth isn't present in those transactions in your head. Like that, is that going back to that, your self-worth being based in the service you are into others or how busy you are? And that's where I feel like there's a bit of such a contradiction, or that conflict that happens in a business owner's mind, because what you actually can potentially make the most money out of and amplify is what you find the easiest, but you avoid it because it's easy, and therefore you don't value it as much as you should.
Yeah. Why would anyone pay me to do this? Because if I can do this, everyone can do this. No, that's
No,
not how
not
it
every,
works. Yeah. No. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And it goes back to that putting you at the core. Like, what are your strengths? What are your values? What is it that you love? And if you can create, it's the Japanese Ikigai model. If you can create a business from that,
Yeah.
then you can be able to contribute in whichever way you want, and fill your own cup. And and it's such a magic thing that to feel. And I've seen so many of my clients do it that have gone from career corporate, they're solicitors or they're teachers, or they're career professionals, and have completely pivoted what it is that they're doing, because they've gone back to, I've chosen this path because I thought I should. And actually, who am I? What do I love doing? What am I really good at? What fills me up? What lights me up? And is there anything in that list of stuff that I can make money from? And there will be. There absolutely will be. But having that passion, having that, you-shapedness in your business is so incredibly valuable, because it's the contribution to success. That happiness, that pleasure, that positive emotion is a precursor to your success. You don't have to be successful before you can feel those things. If you can feel them now and prioritize them now, they will naturally make you more successful.
That is my story, going through that path of what I feel like I should do.
Yeah.
And I remember, this is my third career, and I was working with homeless families before that, and fell into that because I felt like I should go to university. Was a great thing for me, and it's not for everybody. And I do appreciate that, because one, not everybody loves learning, but also that sense that not everybody is academic, and society shouldn't make you feel like you can't succeed unless you are. But I followed that path and went and did a health services management degree. And in my head, I was like, I'm going to go and be a manager of a health service so that I can. And I always I was going to run my own business at some point. And that was based on my first boyfriend's mum, who was really successful at running supported housing for adults with learning disabilities, which I also worked at. So I looked at her, thought, well, I'm just going to copy her because that looks like success. And then face redundancy, because, that's what happens. And this was this was a long time ago. It's like 12, 15 years ago. I can't actually think where it is. Then I went into teaching. And the reason I went into teaching is it's really hard to become redundant as a teacher in my head, but also working with vulnerable people that I got to know they were adults and they needed support before that. And where were those missing pieces that set them on that path instead of the other one? So I went into teaching, did really well, really loved it. But knowing now, I loved it for the wrong reasons. I love the kids. Working with kids is stressful, but there's so much joy and fun and laughter. Like you can't not have a laugh. There was just this random stories just popped into my head. I've got to share it because it's so funny. I used to work with this little boy called Wesley, and he was so much fun to work with. And I think he had ADHD. I think he just had ADHD actually, but I always taught the kids that no one else wanted to teach, but that actually they were the best.
Yeah.
They were so much fun to teach. I was teaching maths and he came into my classroom and he said, so-and-so are bonking outside. And I was like, pardon, Wesley? Pardon, what did you say? He said it again. So I can't even remember who it was. They're bonking outside. And I went, oh, do you mean bunking? And he's like, oh yeah, bunking, not bonking. This is so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, so funny. Anyway, so that life of like working with these amazing kids, but then having my son, I was just like, I have not been creative, and I've always been creative. I'd never prioritized my need to be creative, like the passion that's inside of me. And that's where my first business, Vivid Wire, came from. And I did that. And through that, then fell into this coaching. But it's like every single exact step that I felt like I should do at the time, if I'd stayed there, I was so desperately unhappy when I left teaching. But when I now am here, I'm so grateful that I trained to be a teacher, because through that, I now deliver some really banging courses and people actually learn really well because I'm a trained teacher. But also when I did my master's degree, I specialised in trauma-informed education. So now I get to help people that have been trauma affected to learn even better, to become better business owners. So everything's fell into place. But that path of it's following that, like that part of money and status. I felt like I would be a bigger and bolder point of, or have a bigger place in the world if I was in service to those people. Instead, I was in service to the wrong people. And it's allowing yourself to think that that's okay. And it's what my limiting beliefs have been really fixed on, that my self-worth being attached to being in service to other people massively. It's been such a big hurdle for me.
And it's, you particularly in those kind of careers where it's, there's a lot of education involved, there's a lot of dedication involved in those kind of careers. You then become so attached to the identity of being those things. And because we as a society value those things and know what those things are, you'll naturally say to people, oh, I'm a teacher, oh yeah, and they'll get it, they'll value it straight away. And all of this happens on a subconscious level, but then they are giving you the signals of, yes, I know this and you are valuable because of this.
Yes, you're so right.
And I don't know about you, but I experienced that, when I was coming out saying, I had director in my title or head of in my title or whatever, even if they didn't know what the hell I did, it sounded fancy because I had that. But then I come out and go, oh, I'm a positive psychologist, and everyone sort of cocks their head and goes, what's that? And it doesn't give you the same status or power or whatever. Not that it bothers me in the slightest, but I can understand why people get caught in that trap of, I can only do the things of the path that I'm on, of the path that I can see, because you identify with that thing, you identify with who you are as your career or as your profession. And it's so hard to take that, just even that slight turn off that path that, in 10 years time, you're completely off the path. But that turn is hard to do because you're constantly getting the reassurance that the path that you're on might be the path from other people. But your reassurance, what you feel, is probably going, oh, this feels terrible. I don't know what do I do.
Yeah. And it's recognizing that it feels terrible, and that's okay. But then you have to choose to leave that path and say, right, okay, I'm going to carve out my own path, follow my own. And then you're like, well, what's that path supposed to be?
Yeah.
I've no idea who I am, what I'm doing. I just know that I like doing this one thing, whatever it is. Then you have the judgment of everybody around you going, what are you doing? What, are you
Yeah.
going to try and make money out of that?
Yeah. How's your little business?
How's
Yeah.
your little
Yeah.
business? Oh.
Oh.
And then you just you get into this spiral. And unless you really anchor into who you are and know how to find out who you are,
Mm.
you lose your way. And I think
Yeah.
that's why a lot of business owners get burnt out or leave when,
Yeah.
because initial ignition of the idea of starting a business, that is like gold. There's
Yeah.
somebody I'm working with, one of my clients, she's actually got one business, but she's creating another.
Mm.
And watching it happen in real time,
Mm.
watching her do it, and the joy in her face, it literally makes me want to cry every time I
Yeah.
see that joy. It
Yeah.
is just phenomenal. We all had that when we had that. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And we lose sight of thinking that that magic was powerful enough to get us to where we're supposed to be. And
Yeah.
we just let it, we've got to protect our dreams, haven't we?
Yeah.
Because from all
Absolutely.
of the pollutants of the
Yeah.
people that haven't done it before.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where I always come back to have you at the center.
Yeah.
What is it that's important to you? And are you living the majority of your days in line with those things? And it might be that you can create more of that in your business. It might be that you can create more of that in your life. But, we start to go down these paths. And if these paths are ever so slightly off, in a year's time, you are miles away from you. So
Mm.
bring it back to who are you? What do you love? What do you value? And does your life look like that? Does it feel like that? And if not, we need to start making some adjustments, because 10 years' time, you're going to be so far away from you. You're going to be in crisis mode because you've got no idea who you are. And choosing that on a daily basis, I've got a planner called the Choose Happiness Planner on that basis, that these are your values. You know that. What are you choosing this week in line with that? And plan that in like you would plan anything else into your diary, because that's important. Otherwise, we are going to end up so far away from you, a life that you didn't recognize, that you didn't choose, and you're going to be going, shit.
Yeah.
What am I doing? What am I doing? It's because you're not choosing you.
Yeah. And at that point, people think, oh, it's too late.
Yeah.
At that point,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
Can't
retired
do it
soon,
now.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And I always feel I govern my day and my week and my life basically on creating a life that I'd never want to retire from.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
And that legacy sort of building, but also doing the things that I really, really love all of the time. Why would
Mm.
you ever want to retire?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's re-establishing that relationship with work, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that actually is this work. The thing that you work at and the thing that you make money from doesn't necessarily need to be the same thing.
Mm.
And that idea that, if I always say with work, like if an alien came down and looked at the human race and just looked at how we're all living, they would go, oh, they spend loads of time on this work, lark. Isn't that wonderful? And then they'd get down and then they'd talk to us and then they'd go, why are you spending all your time doing something that you hate? It makes no
Yeah.
sense. I think the stat is like 85% of people hate their job. So like as an entire human race, we're all spending the majority of our time doing things that we don't like. It makes no sense. So if we can then turn that around, like you were saying, what would you do in your dream day? And if we can work out how that makes us money, then is that work?
Mm.
Like, is that what we associate the word of work with? And there are going to be things in business, it sounds lovely, doesn't it? But there are going to be things like doing your accounts or your tax return or
Yeah.
whatever it is
Boring.
that you're probably not going to love.
Yeah.
There are things that might be in your traditional thing of work, but
Yeah.
that might be 2 hours a week rather than 40 hours
Mm.
a week. And I just think it's an idea that everybody should explore. Like, who are you? Who are you as your happiest version of self? And how do you live in line with that for the maximum
Mm.
time of your life? Because
Yeah.
that's living to me. That is actually living your life.
Yeah. And it's okay to give the boring stuff to other people that love
Oh
doing
yeah,
it.
absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
I was
Yeah,
talking to another client and she's like, oh, I hate doing that bit. I'm like, that's why you employ a VA, because they
yeah,
love doing it. People
yeah,
who love doing admin, there are people out there that absolutely just love doing admin.
yeah, yeah,
You can give it to them. And
yeah,
then you're
exactly,
fulfilling their life as well as your own.
exactly,
I love
exactly.
that. So tell me about Happy by Me. How did all that begin?
So Happy by Me came from the story of me sitting working what happiness felt and meant to me. And it's all about the premise of, happiness is yours. And not only is it yours, but you get to choose it. You get to choose that version of you, and only you are going to make that happen. The
Mm.
people will say to me, you can't choose happiness. You can choose happiness.
Yeah.
40% of your happiness comes from intentional activity. Only 10% comes from your life circumstances. So if you won the lottery tomorrow, would you be happy? Most people would say yes. Within a certain time frame, you're going to come back down to the same level of happiness that you are now. The only way to actually manipulate it is the things that you do every single day. And it's things like that that's, people can have an opinion on happiness naturally because it's something that we all think, feel, and we all want. And, most people, when you say, why are you doing this? It's, I want to be happy. Like, I want this life, whatever that means to them. But it's also different. So not only is it yours to find and define, like only you are going to create that life. Like there is no one that is going to go and do this for you. And my dream is for Happy by Me is it's to create as many people as I physically can taking that challenge of, okay, who are you as your happiest version and how are we going to get there? And sometimes people will map it and go, I feel like I'm already there. Great. You've noticed something you've not noticed about your life before, and that's it. That's fine. Some people will go, whoa, 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 my life is so far away from that.
Mm.
Cool, that's fine. We can get there too. Um, but it's my purpose statement is to make great shit happen by cultivating happiness. That you can have the business, you can have the salary, you can have the things that we've talked about being, societally acceptable. If that's genuinely what you want, absolutely fine. You can have that, but you can have that and be happy. And I don't want you to think that you have to have one or the other. You can have success or happiness. Your happiness comes first, and anything you want comes as after that. And it's building that in the same conversation when we talk about business, when we talk about life, when we talk about relationship. It's your happiness, your health, your well-being comes at the center, and then we build from that. Not we build the business and then we think about your happiness, because that's not going to work for you. Because you can have a £1 billion business and still be miserable, and you can have absolutely nothing and be really happy. So it's that's my absolute mission and purpose. It's cultivating happiness and seeing the result of happier people, whatever it is that you want in your life. And that for some clients means they can spring out of bed easier in the morning. For some clients, that means their £1 million business. For some clients, that means they've just retired and they've got absolutely no idea what they do with their spare time anymore because all they've ever known is work. And it means something different to everybody. And that's exactly what the by me element is about the business. It's yours. That's fine. You're allowed that. You're absolutely allowed that. That should be celebrated.
I love that. This I think, and also this mission is such an important one because the more happier people there are in the world, the happier the world will be.
Exactly. And like, and it can't. I've gone around the houses a few times, particularly when business is difficult. I suppose I'm selling happiness. It's an intangible thing. And naturally, as human beings, we don't really prioritize that. We don't. We will happily say, "Oh, I've got a bad back. I'll go and see a chiropractor," or I've got this career development thing going on. I'll go to this course, but I'll leave my happiness a couple of years and I'll wait for that a little bit to come through. It's not something that we put first. So from a sales perspective, for me, that can become challenging sometimes because you're selling something that's completely intangible. And so when I've gone around that, what does that mean for a marketing message? And I can't shake this is the most important thing on this planet. Happy people. Like
Mm.
I I cannot imagine doing anything other than supporting people to live their happiest life.
Mm.
And if that gives me challenges in messaging or whatever it might be in terms of my business, then fine, because that mission for me is so important that I might do that in different ways. So I coach and train now. I do that in, I'm a scout leader. I sit on multiple charity boards and things like that give me that give back, sense in different ways and allow me to fulfill that purpose in different ways. But I can't imagine doing anything else for the exact reason that you just said. Imagine a world where people were happy, because only 18% of the UK are actively flourishing right now. And what is the point? What is the point? Why are we doing this to ourselves as human beings? What is happening? And that's a very, very large question. But when you get hit with that stat that only 18% of people are actively really, really enjoying their lives, like that's scary. That's really scary. Like like I say, if an alien came down and looked at us, they'd be going, what the hell are you lot doing?
Wow. 18%. That is a, oh, doesn't that make your heart hurt a little bit?
It's horrible, isn't it? It
Mm.
really is horrible. And it's so it's just so damaging. Like it's so
Yeah.
damaging. And we can talk about like the mental health debate. There are so many people who are experiencing illness, and thank God we've got a lot better as a society about talking about that and accessing tools to support people. But there are also so many people that aren't experiencing illness but aren't experiencing health either. And I
Mm,
always, if you think about that in your physical health, that just because you haven't got a broken leg doesn't mean that you can go and run a marathon and that you're fit enough to go and run a marathon. And that's
mm,
exactly the same about our mental health, that it's on a spectrum. And just because you aren't unhappy or just because you aren't experiencing illness doesn't necessarily mean that you are experiencing health. And that that just sentiment that only 18% of people are actually experiencing positive mental health and are flourishing in whatever that means to them, that's you only you can comment on whether you are or not,
mm.
but most people feel that they're not, and
So
that's a scary
is
thing.
is that flourishing? That's the point. That if you've got good mental health, that means you're flourishing and not just meh.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
so that
I think there's some people that I would have that conversation with and they just go, yeah, no, I'm happy as I am. They're happy as they are, but they're not necessarily flourishing. And is that because they aren't aware of what flourishing could be, or they just are happy not flourishing, if
it's
that
a
makes sense?
personal experience and it's a
Yeah.
subjective experience as well. So you could say, let's say very simply, we were going to say on a scale of 1 to 10, whereas actually let's do -10 to 0 where you're experiencing ill health and 0 to 10 where you're experiencing health.
Mm,
you know flourishing would be 7 to 10. So if we
right.
said to
Okay.
people, if we went out into the world now and said, just here's a scale, how do you feel, they're gonna say something different today than they would say tomorrow. It's subjective, it will fluctuate, and that's fine, because in the same way as if we were going to do that for your physical health, you might have a cold one day and you might not next day. So
Mm,
that will fluctuate as well. But the idea of what it means to you, and this is the difficulty with psychological research, because everything is subjective. It's everything
yeah, of
based on
course.
whatever it is that we report on a scale, which has obviously got an element of subjectivity to it, which then skews validity in the data. Can't even say that word.
That word,
Validity.
yeah.
There we go. in the data. But I think both things can happen.
Mm,
That sometimes people can be so in their own sort of limiting beliefs and in their own world that they can't see what else is possible. And therefore, the idea of what a 10 looks like on that scale will be very different to them to the next person, because somebody else has done lots of work on their limiting beliefs and lots of work on their vision for themselves, and therefore has got a broader vision of what that means to them. But those things may not make person A happy either. So
mm,
I think that does happen, where people won't allow themselves to believe that they can feel that zest when they wake up in the morning, or they can feel that joy, or they can give themselves permission to rest, or whatever it means to them. I think there is that element. But then I do genuinely think that some people, if you just gave them that scale, they would go, yeah, I'm about a 4.
mm.
And because they've never thought about it before.
I love that scale. Everyone who's listening, do the scale. I think
Mm.
it's, even if you did that as part of your journaling every day, you could
Yeah.
just sort of like monitor your ups and downs and where you're at and just being aware. I love that. This I'm absolutely fast. I love talking about all of this stuff. You are brilliant to talk to. Um and I want to share, like before we started recording, share more of the messy stories,
Mm.
because one thing that can make you feel really unhappy as a business owner is feeling inadequate, like you're the only
Yeah.
person that's ever doubted yourself, fearful of the next steps. And I love sharing more of these stories.
Mm.
Are there moments in your journey as a business owner where you've thought, fuck this, what am I
God.
doing?
Oh, daily sometimes. Oh God, there are too many to share, and there are so many moments. There are moments where So I set this business up and went full time and left my real job, if you like, in 2021.
Mm.
And there are moments still to this day where I'll go, fuck this, and I will get my CV ready. And then it's that moment of getting your CV ready when you're like, shit.
Mm.
There are moments when I've got a few friends who are self-employed, and I went round on Monday. We were actually talking about a new business idea together. And before we did, we were moaning about whatever we were moaning about, just because we were a group of friends who were experiencing the same challenges. Um, I've got a friend who's a detailer, fantastic at what he does. And we were talking about, we are spending a lot of time generating content, and can we marry that to an income? And then what's the purpose of social media? And we were having that discussion. And we were just like, this is, this is hard. Like, this can be really hard. You are your business, you are it. There is no one else. And you're doing what you think you should do because all the gurus are telling you that social media and digital marketing is the way forward. Therefore, you show up consistently for years, and you're like, is this really doing what it is that I want to do? And we gave each other the same challenge that I've just said. Like, well, if that's not working and if that doesn't feel aligned to you and what's important to you, then you mark it in another way, and there is another way. And we just had that conversation, and bringing that out into just the center of, do you know what, this feels shit, like this is hard. And like you said, being able to share those stories of, oh God, I've just spent 2 hours on this and it's got 3 likes and no one's doing it, or I've just launched this course and nobody bloody wants it, or that, oh, I don't know, I'm going to pay my mortgage next month, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many moments of, have I done the right thing here? And I think, this time last year, I went and did a 12-month contract because I was looking at what it is that I wanted in my life. And me and my partner had just moved in together in his 1-bedroom flat where we both work from home. And I said to myself, do you know what? The easiest thing for me to do right now to get us into a house, because self-employed income is hard to prove to a mortgage provider, um, is to just go and get a job for a bit. And I'm in a very fortunate position where I can do that because I still do consultancy. I've got 2 businesses. So I still do consultancy in my other business. And we did, and we went and bought a house, and then we left in December. So that feeling and that battle of, it's not always rosy, because it isn't. And it doesn't matter what you're pursuing, whether that's a business, whatever it is, that's not always, life isn't always going to be rosy.
No.
But, and it sounds cliche, it's what you do in those moments, and it's how you understand those moments and how you understand what that fear is, and facing that fear in a way that's not just going to lead you to the obvious action, like go and get your CV ready. Really asking yourself, well, what is this fear?
Mm.
Where is it coming from? What other options are on the table? Like, have you given yourself time and space to really explore that? And how does it feel? How's it sitting with you right now? And really just allowing space for that. And I think, that is, it can be really terrifying. It really can be. But your fear, I'm a firm believer that your fear is a mask for desire. And if you weren't scared of it, then you probably don't want it that much. And therefore, working through that to get the thing that you really want can be such a powerful, powerful experience. But you've got to work through it. You've got to understand it.
So the more we're scared of something, the more we probably want it.
That's what I believe. Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe that. I think, if I always use the example, if somebody said to me, do you want to come and bungee jump with me, Meg? I'd probably be like, no, I'm not that bothered about bungee jumping. So I won't be scared of it because I'm not going to do it. I'm not interested in it.
Yeah.
So, it's that feeling of, what is it about this thing that you're thinking of doing, or the thing that you are doing, that is bringing fear or self-doubt or whatever you're experiencing that is messy, really messy. um that, where's it coming from, and why, and how do we take a smaller step, or how do we understand it? And when the thing is with fear is it's an actual human emotion, right? You're going to experience it. You're doing something new. Fear is completely rational for you to feel when you're feeling something new, but it doesn't need to stop you. Like you say, you
Mm.
feel the fear and you do it anyway. You pick it up and you take it with you and you do the thing whilst you're scared. It's not I feel this, therefore I can't do it. It's like, therefore I feel this and I'm going to do this.
Mm.
So it's, you get, don't you get used to that feeling of, oh, this is scary.
Yeah.
But that probably means that you're pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, doing it while you're shaking.
Yeah.
So many times I'm like,
Yeah. And-
"Ooh, I'm shaking."
Yeah. And in the early days, particularly when I was making the jump to come into self-employment, I I understood that emotion and that feeling as, oh, that means I'm in the right way. And I remember doing it about a
Mm,
photo shoot. Like I remember thinking I probably need some better photos on my website. I was like, oh God, I'm gonna have to book a photo shoot. And it was like
yeah,
like
I
proper
bloody
one of
hate
them
photo shoots.
cringy. I don't want to do this.
Yep.
And because I felt like that, I was like, well, I'm gonna have to do it now. And
Mm,
it was just a sign that probably the right thing to do. And I'm just gonna listen to that. I'm just gonna listen to that being, the thing that I should be doing because I'm terrified of it. And the more examples you've got where you felt like that and you've done it anyway, the more you're teaching your brain that you can do whatever you want. And that fear is just something that you feel, but you can get over it. And that's, it's useful evidence for your brain to have, isn't it, that you felt like this before and you've carried on anyway. So you can
yeah.
crack on and do the next thing.
Yeah, cognitive bias. I love
Mm.
when there was one thing that always comforts me, that fear and excitement to your body is exactly the same
Yeah.
reaction. You just have to breathe through. You're
Mm.
breathing through excitement, but you're not in
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
God, I
Yeah.
just get so confused by
Yeah.
feelings that don't feel uncomfortable when actually discomfort can mean amazing things. It's just
Yeah.
we just don't
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you only don't like it because you've not understood it.
Yeah, not
So
familiar.
yeah, you feel it and you retreat. Whereas if you feel it and then explore, you might come to a different, you might not do the thing that you're thinking about, but you might come to something different that is still going to take that step forward for you. And that's the power of coaching, right? It's the power of giving you space to go, well, let's explore this
Yeah,
and let's still get you where you want to be. Because there's nothing, your emotions are a contribution to what it is. It's an offering. It's not there
yeah,
to stop you. It's, oh, I feel like this. Oh, I think like this. Okay, that's interesting.
yeah.
Let's explore that. And you can still carry on regardless, and you can still achieve whatever it is that you want regardless.
Yeah, so true. Oh, love it. And if I before we finish on the final question, I could literally talk to you all
Me
day,
too.
but
Me too.
in my head, I'm like, is my son a come? I better find out where he
Bless
is.
him.
It's not that I don't trust my husband. Of course, I trust him to do whatever, but I just need to check. But this has been a really amazing podcast interview. So I really want to thank you for that. Where can
No, thank
people
you.
find you?
So on Instagram, it's happy.byme, or my website is www.happybyme.co.uk.
Brilliant. And what can they give? How can they give you their money? How
So
can you
I
sell to
offer,
them?
my core offer is one-to-one coaching. So come and
Cool.
spend some time with me. I do actually right now have a 30-day accelerator. So if you want to spend 30 days with me, it's 3 coaching sessions across the 30 days. If you want to achieve something and smash something out and you want hands-on direct support, then that is on offer now. But I do also do a monthly free challenge. So if you are sat in that, oh, something's a bit scary, or this sounds good and I really don't know what flourishing means to me, every month I run a 5-day free challenge called Courage to Flourish. So if you are looking at what does flourishing mean and how on earth do I go and get it, then that is a 5-day free challenge where you've got me and a bunch of other people going through the same exercises, one of which is that happiness in the middle of a piece of paper exercise. So yeah, and I love it. My favorite week of the month is Courage to Flourish month.
Love it. So if you no, hold on. Do you know, I used to be able really stumble over this question. I've literally said it over 200 times. I don't know what's right. Come on. Is there something that you know now that you wish you'd known 10 years ago?
I think it's the power of choice. I think,
Mm,
you are responsible for your happiness, and you have everything you need to be able to make that happen. You just need to shine a light on those things and let that create the path that's in front of you. Don't let anybody else put a path there that you don't want to take.
that's powerful stuff, that is. I think that for me, in my reframing journey, the fact that I choose to be exactly where I am and that I can't
Mm.
moan about it, because the only person I should be moaning about it is to myself. And that power of like,
Yeah.
this is work, Meg. This is our
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. We do
Having
this.
a,
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
what we do.
Yeah.
But empowering other people to go and live their most amazing lives, be their most vivid selves, to go and then make the planet an even better place.
Yeah.
But we choose this. And for
Yeah.
anybody that is listening, going, well, it's all right for you. Da, da, da.
Yeah.
No, I think we've done our time, and we are here to show you that you can
Yeah.
choose, and
Yeah.
it's you that's stopping you. And just if that feels a bit uncomfortable, it's supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, we've both been there, haven't we? We're like, oh shit, now it's all on me. Now I've
Now
got
it's
to do
all on me.
something. Yeah.
Oh,
No.
thank you so much, Meg. We'll do the fake
Thank you.
goodbye. I forgot to say that again at the beginning. Everybody that listens know that I do this. We're going to do the fake goodbye, and then we'll do the proper goodbye. But thanks so much for coming on, Megan. I really appreciate it.
Lovely. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.